So let's talk about those ants, right? So, what are ants? Now, I didn't coin this and I heard it from somewhere when I was a part of a group. But ants are automatic negative thoughts. So, today, when I was walking and I'm scrolling through LinkedIn and Instagram and all the social media, right? Everybody was talking about mindset and it was coming up repeatedly. Floyd Jones was talking about make the jump. Mallory Erickson was talking about, she sent out an email about mindset. And it got me to thinking that yesterday when I came to you and I was talking about board education, I wondered what automatic negative thoughts came up for you. And how did you acknowledge them, look at them, and put them away? Because those ants can keep us from doing so much. But let's talk about it when it comes to board education. So let's talk about a thought that may have come up for you. One could have been, well, my board would never go for that. They're too busy. They won't go to training. Um, a conference, I can't even get them to show up to a meeting. How am I going to get them to go to a conference to give us a day or two of their time when I can't even get them to give me at least an hour of time for a board meeting? That's one automatic negative thought that came up. Another automatic negative thought that may have come up was, we got to pay? What? We don't have money for that. That's impossible to do. That's another automatic negative thought that comes up. I'm telling you, these thoughts are going to come up. You have to acknowledge the thoughts, look at them, examine them, and put them back in their place. These are natural reactions. However, you have to change your mindset. And that mindset is around the value of your nonprofit. Do you find the service that you're doing and what you have dedicated a large part of your life to is this organization and service and giving back to your clients? Is it worth the investment of time, talent, and treasures from your board members? They're going to take their cue from you. I can't stress this enough. You, as the CEO, you have to project the value that your organization brings and the value that you bring. So I'm going to say this. A lot of people ask, why do I use the term CEO? And I get that all the time. Because, an industry standard is executive director. Um, some people say founder, but I say CEO. And the reason why I say CEO is because a lot of you struggle with that mindset, those automatic negative thoughts around what is a nonprofit executive, right? And oftentimes you go, and you've heard me say this before, but it's worth repeating. Oftentimes, when you are meeting with people, potential donors, potential board members, any of those, you go in with a service frame of mind. Oh, woe is me. We're a little old nonprofit. We just need a little bit of your time. Would it be great? You could be great if you could serve on our board. You don't go in owning the value that you bring. You need to understand that you are a CEO of a business. And when you're going to meet with potential board members, you need to come in with that mindset. You are a CEO of a business that has the tax designation of nonprofit. So nonprofit is just a 501c3. Nonprofit is just a tax designation. It is not a business model. That's why you still have to incorporate at the state. It's a business. And so I use the term CEO because that brings some elevation. I want you to see in your mind that you bring value, and language matters. And so I use the term CEO. When you walk into a room as a CEO, then you walk into the room with some options and with some solutions. I don't go into a donor meeting or a board meeting and have that mindset, right? Of, again, whoa, well, we're just a nonprofit, and I know you're just this important person, and I don't know if you have time to serve on our board, and whatever it is that you can do, you bring value. So that's why I use CEO in my when I talk about executives from nonprofits. But getting back to these ants, these automatic negative thoughts, you have to address the automatic negative thoughts when it comes up around board education. So let's talk about it, right? So let's say your board members, I don't even want to say that your board members will not go to training. I want to say that you assume that your board members don't want to go to training. You don't know until it's offered, right? And even if you get one out of however many board members to go, one, maybe your board chair, as a part of being the board chair, they commit to going to training. You have to start the cultural change. So even if you get one person can be the catalyst to start making the change for the entire board. So give them the opportunity. And I'm not talking about virtual opportunities, although virtual opportunities are very good. There's a lot of them out here. And if you can start with the virtual, great. But those in person trainings, again, make a huge difference. A huge difference. So, automatic negative thought around they won't give me the time. I don't can't get them even to come to a meeting. How am I going to get them to give up a day and a half or 2 days and travel and all of that? Stop it. You just need one. Get your board chair. Have a conversation with the board chair to say, this is, as the board chair, this is the required leadership. Um, I would really appreciate it. And if it's not your board chair, then get the next person, but get them out there. So, what's the other automatic negative thought that we talked about? The money. How are we going to pay for that? Ain't nobody got time to pay for that. I can't get board members to pay for that. The money, right? So I give you a couple scenarios about how my organization did it. We paid for board members to go to training because we found it very valuable. It took them on a next level. But when years were tight, they paid, and if we ended in the black, then we reimbursed them, right? So here's another thing that I didn't share with you. Let's get rid of that automatic negative thought and think about how we can make this possible. Anytime I wrote a grant, anytime I wrote a grant, I put training in that grant as a budget line item. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that was training for the board, it was training for the staff. But if I could free up dollars from the general operating budget that a grant would cover that training, then that freed up money from the general operating budget, then I could use for board travel and training. And so every time you write a grant, put training in there for your staff. There's also some foundations out there that know that if you change your board and you inspire your board and you engage your board, you will have a huge impact on the success of your organization. And so they will fund board training. So you'll just have to have conversations with those foundations to see what they would cover. If you justify it, it's an eligible expense, they will cover it. So with these automatic negative thoughts, you just got to push through, and you got to make sure that you are acknowledging them, because I don't want to say don't acknowledge the automatic negative thoughts. We all get them. We all get the ants. But you have to push through, and you have to say, okay, yes, these are all valid, because I don't want to not validate your thoughts, but how are we going to get around them? And what I have seen is that successful people figure out a way to get around those thoughts. I've given you a couple of suggestions. Start with your board chair. Start with one person on your board, right? Get them to go to training. They come back, they do a presentation to the board. They're all fired up. They're going to start there. You're not going to be the only one in that boardroom that's excited, that you have someone that finally sees the vision with you, and y'all can strategize and be excited about it and start changing the culture of the organization. Again, two is find the money. Find the money. And how can you find the money? You find the money by, when you write a grant, you make sure you put training in there. Also, not only that, here's a best practice that I did, and I recognize again that I was very blessed. But I want to start out by saying that when I inherited my organization, we had a $750,000 budget, and we went to $2.5 million. So there were some mind shift changes that I had to make. And it was around these automatic negative thoughts. All my board members would never do that. Oh, we can't do that because we don't have this, so we don't have. Find a way. Find a way. That is what successful CEOs do. They find a way, right? So I want to say, with the money situation again, put it in grants. And also, when you're going through the budget process with your board and you're developing your budget, you put training in the budget. So for me, training usually averaged, when my budget was around $750,000, we probably did about $10,000 or so in training. When my budget was around 2.5 million, we did like $32,000 in training, and that was training for board travel and staff travel. But again, every grant that I wrote, I made sure that I put training as one of the line items. We limit ourselves. No one ever told you that you can't put training in a grant application. It's a smart thing to do. You're asking them to fund a certain program, but you don't have training in there. They understand that in order for the program to be successful, that the people, the staff, need to be trained. And I don't even want to get into this thing about, here we go. I don't even want to get into this thing. I'm ready to go down this rabbit hole I get very passionate about. I don't even want to get into this thing around, oh, well, grants, they won't pay for overhead, or they won't do this. Honey, every staff position that I had, including mine as a CEO, was covered by some grant. Now, as a CEO, would they cover 100% of my salary? No. But if grant one covered 5%, grant two covered 5%, grant three covered 5%, that's 15% right there. And depending on how many grants you got, do the math. Okay. So this thing about grants won't cover CEO and this, the only position I think, and I'm gonna even contradict myself when I say this, the only position that I think the only position that was really hard to get a grant to cover was my resource development position. And that's because their job is to raise money. But the contradiction is, I found a foundation to fund the position as a startup position for the organization, because we were trying to get to the next level. And so for 3 years on a sliding scale, I had a foundation fund the resource development position. So don't tell me that it's not possible. These automatic negative thoughts that come up for you, you just gotta get your Raid out and just start spraying and start talking to people, because there are successful nonprofits out there that are doing what you want to do and start having these conversations. Or get yourself a coach. That's what I do. And I'm coming here live to tell you how to do it. So get your raid out again. Every time those automatic negative thoughts come up, start spraying and start looking for solutions. That's what CEOs do. That is what leaders do. So I hope this message resonated with someone. And please don't forget that your mission matters and deserves to be funded to its fullest capacity. Y'all have a great day.